Welcome to the Glassworking shop. Well, I've been busy for a really long time making NQALHAs and making squeezers and redoing the ventilation and changing the camera setup, and it's been a long time since I made one of these videos. So this is going to be the first in a series of videos of making a somewhat complex murrini assembly that hopefully, if everything goes right, I'll be able to figure out how to roll up into a cylinder and actually make something hollow out of it. Wish me luck. But today I'm going to be doing some prep, and I'm going to be using all of the new stuff, the new ventilation, the new cameras, and Octavius Squeezer is now the first production version with the pretty blue anodize. It should function the same, so there's probably no difference in the way it works. But yeah, I'm going to start out making some kind of like flat strips. So here we go. I'm going to be using a new experimental color. It's a kind of a darkish red. I got it at DFO at the North Star booth, and we'll see if it turns out to be a nice color. I'm starting out on the NQALHA. I kind of gather up a bunch of glass here. I've never worked with this color before, so I don't know how sensitive it is to heat. I do know that the cadmium colors tend to boil very easily, and so I gotta be pretty careful and pretty gentle as I gather it up. Getting a couple of tiny little sparkles. I'm not sure if they're air bubbles being released or what, but I'm fairly gently working on this in the far flame. So let's see if I can maybe get a little bit more action going here. Kind of using an oxidizing flame, because I've been told that these colors work better, and just kind of in the far flame, on the edge of the flame, just being slow and careful and trying to let the glass show me what I should be doing. Of course, I haven't done this in a while, so whatever skills I had developed before are likely to have decayed a bit, so glasswork is definitely a use it or lose it proposition, I'm afraid. I haven't played with slugger bars yet, but I suspect that for this operation a slugger bar might be the perfect choice. Get Mr. Rod Holder here. Oh, Mr. Rod Holder is not happy. Oh, there he goes. I'm not precisely synchronizing the right hand with the NQALHA. I'm actually intentionally introducing a bit of a twist to kind of mix up the color and maybe, hopefully, if there's any air in it, drive out some of the air, but mostly I'm just trying to keep the thing on center, trying to make a more or less uniform gather, although kind of doesn't matter. But one thing I've learned about glasswork, if you're sloppy in the first step and then believe, oh, no problem, I'll fix it in the second step, sometimes you don't. And so probably a really good idea in glasswork to try to make every step as good as you can. I'm just heating and forming this guy into a cylinder, and then I'm going to stripe it in black and squeeze it and pull it flat. My goal is to make about roughly 1 inch wide by 1/4 inch thick, or maybe a little bit thinner, strips, which will then be laminated together to form a pattern. And then after the pattern is laminated, it'll be assembled with some other stuff and hopefully result in a really nice final pattern. Using the NQALHA with the L-marver and the handheld paddle, got to get this guy a little bit more under control. As you can imagine, pretty difficult for a one-man operation. Trying to do multiple things at one time, trying to do glasswork, think ahead to the next step, and improvise a narration. I'm going to be using the hand torch here, the Mirage hand torch. What I was trying to say before I got confused by the hand torch, I'm trying to talk and work at the same time. This is hard. So, it's kind of difficult being a one-man operation to try to have a product line do some inventing and do some glasswork and do all the other annoying things, just the maintenance things around the house. So I'm starting to look for some help. Don't know exactly what form it's going to take, but I'm starting to think it might be time to move beyond a one-man operation. So now I'm using the Mirage hand torch. Oh, and that's a little bit fast. Using the Mirage hand torch to stripe some black onto this guy. And I'm being careful to avoid, well, first of all, the round guy that I'm striping to, I want it to be hot enough that the glass sticks, but I don't want it to be too hot, because if it's too hot, when I'm putting these lines on, I'll get divots. Also, I don't want to try to get the lines on too cold and press on them too hard, so I'm carefully feeling the rod and making sure that the glass is kind of like nicely soft and melted before striping. I've seen people, including I took a class, and I've seen others that twist the rod while striping, and haven't practiced that yet. This method works really well for me, and so probably not going to try the twisting method today, but it certainly seems logical that twisting would be a really good way to approach this operation. The pattern that I'm going to be making is going to have multiple layers of these black rimmed color rectangles. They're going to kind of all be squeezed together, first into a block, a rectangular block, and then slowly coerced into a triangle shape. And by doing that, I should be able to get some fairly interesting flow as the glass flows from the parallel lines into the triangle shape. So, first thing I'm going to do is just go to the back and just knock off some of the little nubbins there, and then kind of carefully heat the thing and get it nice and round, and then squeeze it and pull it. I try to keep my work area organized, so I don't know if you can see on the camera here, I've got the tool rack, the steel tool rack over to my right. So I try to keep everything that I can off the workbench. If I'm using a paddle, it's okay to lay the paddle down on the workbench, but this reverse direction there, trying to avoid twist in the pattern as I apply very light paddle pressure. Even though this is, the thing that I'm making here is pretty much a solid core with a layer on top of it. So it really wouldn't matter if I introduce twist, but just in general, as I'm practicing glasswork, I'm practicing avoiding twist, so that when an operation comes across that I need to avoid twist, I'll already be nice and practiced to be able to do it. So, cooling my paddle here to avoid overheating it. So now, one of the things that's nice about the NQALHA is the ability to go back and forth very quickly from handwork to machine work. And this is something you really can't do on a lathe. Once you set up on a lathe, you're kind of committed to seeing it through. So anyway, I'm getting this guy nice and hot. Trying to use gravity to get it to extend a little bit. Making it a little bit bigger at the end because the press will tend to make it a little bigger in the center, but it'll all work out in the end. So here goes. That is the first squeeze on Octavius Squeezer, pretty anodized version. Production run 1, version 1, and my personal one doesn't have a serial number, probably serial number 0, but I actually shipped serial number 1 to a customer, and I've got serial number 2 on the bench waiting to be built for another customer, so we'll see how many people find Octavius to be useful. Now I'm just doing some handwork here and using gravity to start the process of elongating this guy. The sound you hear in the background, I wish my shop was quieter, but this isn't really too horribly horrible. I've got my oxygen system running, as well as my ventilation. There's another squeeze. This will be the last squeeze before pulling. My ventilation system uses variable speed 12-inch fans. I got 2 of them, one over the bench and the other one at the lathe, which I'm not using today. And I'm running the ventilation fan at about 60% of full. I oversized the fan so that I could run it at far less than full in an attempt to get it to run quieter, and yes, it is in fact running quieter. So just made a punty ahead of time with a kind of a flattened end on it, and now I'm gonna gently heat, trying to keep the twist under control here. That's one definitely a use it or lose it situation, trying to pull glass without twisting. And I can see that I am definitely out of practice. For those new to pulling, the easiest thing to do, so easy it happens without effort, is to get the middle really, really tiny and the ends really giant. The ends are called the knuckle. And the easiest thing in the world is to get a giant ass knuckle and a tiny little neck in the middle. So I'm intentionally concentrating my heat to the ends here. I'm trying to come up with somewhere around 6 and a little, maybe almost 7 inches of usable material. I'm just going slow. Slow as can be. Barely pulling on the glass at all. Kind of like what the helicopter instructors tell the new student about flying a helicopter. Don't move the control, think about moving the control. Because the amount of motion required to accomplish the operation is so tiny that sometimes for a newbie, just thinking about it is enough. I'm definitely out of practice here, but I believe I will achieve success as I, little bit by little bit, try to get the twist out of this guy. So that is looking pretty good. I'm gonna grab the diamond shears here. Not the diamond shears, just the regular shears. Cut my piece off. The final adjustment, and that is about straight enough and about parallel enough, and yeah, no, not perfect, but this is as good as I do today. So I'm going to put it into the kiln. I'm going to make probably 4 or 5 more of these guys, and there's no reason to show them all on video, so that'll do it for today's video. Thank you for watching. It's been fun.